Testing 1, 2, 3. All right, we're on the bench today with the 633 from Sound Devices. This thing's been out a couple of years now and we really like it. We're using it in the most basic capacity for sync sound filming. And what that means is I'm not using all the features that most sound recordists would probably use, but I want to give you a basic understanding of how to get this thing set up and rolling in just a matter of minutes. So first of all, batteries. One of the really cool things about the 633 is that it has dual or even triple battery possibilities. So on the back side here, I can put 2 Sony type batteries on there. Make sure they're charged up, of course. And the 633 will go from one battery to another seamlessly, even while recording. So that's pretty awesome. Keep an eye on it though. Make sure that you have enough power to continue. If you do go down a battery, make sure that you swap it out right away. It's also possible to load this thing up with AA batteries inside of this chamber right here. All right, so now I've got my batteries hooked up here and I'm able to turn it on. The power switch up here in the top right corner. And it should boot up relatively quickly. So the 633 records 6 channels of audio plus a stereo mix track. 3 of those inputs are microphone level. 3 of those inputs are line level. I could get an adapter and plug additional microphones in if need be. For our purposes, we're primarily running a boom, sometimes a lav or 2, so we have plenty of inputs for our microphones. The first thing I like to do is set up the display to show me more detail of the 3 tracks that I'm actually recording. And so if I press this button right there for meters, it will show me simply tracks 1, 2, and 3, as well as the left and right mix. Right now, I don't have any tracks enabled, and what that means is I'm not ready to record anything yet. So let's take a look at some of the other things I need to do to get set up here. First of all, let's take a look over here on the left side. I have my inputs. So 3 microphone inputs, as well as an X3, X4 out. But again, that's one of those features that a professional sound mixer is probably going to use, but myself as a filmmaker and camera person are probably going to just go, yeah, take a look at the manual. Here are inputs 4, 5, and 6, the line inputs, and they require a different type of cable than an XLR cable, so those may be checked out or rented separately. Make sure that you notice that 1, 2, and 3 are the inputs here. I've had a lot of students that have plugged in the microphone into this input and made adjustments to channel 1, thinking that they were doing everything right, except for they plugged into the wrong hole. So make sure that if you are using input 1, that you plug into this one right there. On the other side of the recorder, we've got our outputs. So a left and right output. If I was going to send the signal to the camera for monitoring, that would be one way. I've also got a power input right here, as well as my aux headphone jack. It's a phono 1/4-inch plug here. So in the kit, we've actually included one of these so that you can plug in your 1/8-inch headphones with that. Maybe you have one as well, and that's just fine, but there is one in the kit as well, so make sure you don't lose that. Recording media is pretty straightforward. Everything behind this little chamber here, it has compact flash as well as an SD card. Now, for our purposes, we've decided to not bend any pins and leave the compact flash card in and only include a reader for SD media. So right now it acts as a backup, and then the SD card I could remove and input into a computer or perhaps a reader. Make sure that you do that before returning the equipment or wiping that card again. All right, so back to the front. All right, so I can see some signal hopping here. I'm gonna plug in a microphone into input 1. Now, typically, a sound professional would probably say, oh, you should make sure that your phantom power is turned off before plugging any microphones in. But as a camera person used to working only in with microphones that typically wouldn't be damaged by voltage from a phantom power, I'm not too concerned about it. This is a 416 Sennheiser microphone that I'm going to plug in right now. So hopefully I should be seeing some signal pretty soon. So back here on the front display, we're all set, and I've got a microphone plugged in that should be able to hear me across the table. Each one of the inputs has a microphone gain adjustment, but also it turns on or enables that track for recording. So if I press that silver button right there and click to engage it and start bringing that audio level up, I should be getting some signal on channel 1. Now let's check that phantom power, shall we? So once I've turned that on, I can check my phantom power by toggling the pre-fader listen toggle, PFL, right there at the top. And if I toggle that to the right, it'll show me mic PH. I can make adjustments to that by clicking on this multi-button right there, which is sometimes my headphone volumes, but in this case, I can press on it and rotate. But my microphone is set to phantom power, so that's great. I'm going to toggle that back again to bring it back to my main menu here. Now I have this configured as a post-fade recording. So what that means is I have to go into the menu and my inputs are set to input to ISO routing. So this right here under the inputs is set to post fade. Now this was a recommendation from a professional sound mixer so that I can use the large faders. Let me bring this back to normal here. Now each one of these large faders right here normally controls the level for the mix if I'm controlling a pre-fade mix. Now I've set it up to post fade so that when I'm actually recording, I'm controlling not only the mix but the input to ISOs. So the ISOs are the individual or isolated tracks on this recorder. What that means is the mix I don't necessarily need for my edit if I'm planning to do a proper film mix. The mixer's going to do that final mix. I want to have the ISO tracks, not something that has a boom and 2 lavalier microphones mixed together into left and right channels. I want to have the isolated boom channel, the isolated lav channel for the actors separated. So the ISO channels are really important. In this case, with it set up to post fade, I'm able to control those levels not only with the microphone gain, the silver knob, but also with the fader. I can control it with smaller increments. So we see right now that my voice from across the bench here is at the green level approaching orange. So this recorder is unique in that it has a peak meter as well as a VU meter. So it's combining both of those into the same recorder. So what happens when I get really loud is it does peak out. It showed me on the display that I have reached a peak at some point. So if I'm consistently hanging out at around 0, which is where green starts to turn to orange, that is a really great level. So that's really what my target is when I'm trying to record a good ISO track on this recorder set up in the way that I have right now. So if I wanted to record additional tracks, first I would enable them. So you see here, click, and I've turned on the gain for input 2, and the red flag has come up here to show me that channel 2 has been enabled, but right now I have no microphone plugged into it, so it's not possible for me to actually hear anything. So the reason I did that is the recorder is set up to record a wave poly file. And what that means is it's a wave file, professional audio wave file, but it has bundled together all of the tracks, the multi-tracks recording into a single file. So rather than delivering you a mixed track and left and right and a single ISO tracks, it has bundled them all together into a single file. I can open that up in Premiere and other editing applications and work with that sound and choose which channels to enable and disable if I want to. But if I have this turned on, what it's going to do is create a dead track for channel 2, which again takes up track space in Premiere or causes me to have to take an extra step to remove. So in this case, I would recommend, if you're not using that channel, turn it off. There we go. Same thing for 4, 5, and 6. Sometimes people like to play with these little knobs, and I just turned that on. I can't see it right now because I've minimized that display, But if I toggle the menu again here, it's showing me that 5 and 6 are now enabled. So there's some channel linking going on as well. So if I, again, turn that off, there we go. Now it disappears again. Right now I have it enabled to record the left and right stereo mix. Even if I don't need that for my final edit, I still record it as sort of a backup, I guess. It's an additional stereo channel. If I were sending this to a camera as reference audio, I definitely want to have that engaged to make sure that I'm sending a proper signal. Up here we've got left, right. So again, this would affect your mix. So if I pan everything to the left, now everything from ISO 1 is just going to the left channel. That could be useful, I suppose, if I wanted to create a secondary mix with only a boom and a lav. I could send one to the left and one to the right. If I only want to hear one channel, I can use the pre-fader listen toggle. If I toggle that to the left, and now it's flashing yellow, which indicates to me that I'm listening only to that channel in the headphones, whereas before I'd be listening to the mix. I toggle that again, and now I'm back to green, which indicates that I'm listening to the mix. Everything is normal. So a couple of other cool features on here that I really like to record. I'm going to hit up. There we go. So now I'm recording on this track. And if I wanted to record as a sound recordist, if I wanted to record a slate of any kind or any kind of notes for the post-production person, I could click on this toggle here for microphone, and it records my voice on all channels. All right, there's an indicator that's saying that my battery is dying, so it's going to switch over to the other battery. That's cool. I've still got my microphone on there, so I'm going to toggle that away. All right, and now it should be gone. Fantastic. I'm still recording the voice coming in through my input there. I also have a test tone generator built into the recorder, so if I press and hold on that toggle, it'll send a test signal at 0 VU. This is great for lining up your output signal to a camera for reference audio, so ensuring that they get the best signal as it was intended. All right, there we go. It's also a great way to test your headphones to make sure they're working. So if for some reason you're having input or output problems with your headphones or a bad headphone jack or something like that, if you can hear your test tone, well then it's working. The menu, let's take a look at a couple of items here. I'm recording right now, so I'm going to stop that. To play back, I would simply toggle that switch down, and now we see that it's green. And so it's playing back the track that we just recorded. Again, I'm going to hit stop and stop again, or I could simply toggle up for record. Let's head into the menu. I'm going to go down to file storage. There we go, and press enter. And if I head down here, I should have erase and format compact flash, erase and format SD. So it's a good idea when you begin your session, especially after these cards have been in a computer system. Sometimes that computer system likes to put extra little files on it, which then could cause the 633 to act erratically. So what I recommend is before your shoot begins, definitely format and erase both the SD card and the compact flash card. Right now I have it set up to record to both of those simultaneously, so it is creating a backup built in. But as I said, please don't remove the compact flash card unless you have an emergency, in which case you'll contact the equipment room and they'll have a reader for it. So some other cool features up here at the top, if I go to take list and choose enter there, and if I choose scene name, I could add a new entry or clear the entry or change that name to the title of my production. So I could also label some of my tracks here. So if I wanted to label track 1 instead of being called track 1, it could be called Boom and Lav 2. But I'll leave those alone for now. Another feature, I already showed you the inputs recording ISO routing. So if for some reason the large fader doesn't seem to be controlling my microphone and only is controlling the mix, then make sure that your input ISO routing is set to post fade. Limiters, there are some limiters in here for sure. Generally, I think those are set, right now I've got it set to soft knee. or you could do a hard knee or a turn it to off. The recorder itself, let's make sure that we're recording to wave poly under both the CF card and the SD card. The sample rate is set to 48 kilohertz. That's fairly normal for production. And our bit depth is set to 24. That's also fairly normal. There is a pre-roll on this device, but that's going to definitely use some extra power. If for some reason the 633 is acting erratic or decides to freeze up for some reason, I would definitely remove the media, remove the batteries, power down, and let it stay powered down for a couple of minutes before trying to power it up again. Make sure that your audio is backed up from the card before restarting it again, and then begin turning it on, and you should be able to clear that freeze. At that point, I would also recommend formatting the media. Usually that's the trick, but I'm sure there are other instances or situations as well. I can also push this back in once I found a relatively good gain for that boom microphone. And again, I can control the levels of it based on this fader right there, as well as what I do with the boom pole itself. Again, the headphone volume, I would plug that in over here, and I'd be able to set my volume using this knob right there. Yeah, I think that pretty much covers it. Testing 1, 2, 3.